When Shedeur Sanders arrived, Jimmy Haslam thought Cleveland had finally broken free from its quarterback curse. However, the $100 million outside offer that Sanders' camp received has completely shattered that delusion. The acquisition, which was engineered by outside parties with connections to international entertainment and technology, puts the Browns' identity as a club at jeopardy in addition to their squad. Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are apparently at odds about how to react within headquarters. Go ahead and subscribe if you're interested in the true tale and all the messy turns that aren't shown on highlight reels. Additionally, you should certainly subscribe if you plan to stay to watch how this Browns quarterback crisis unfolds. This issue strikes at the heart of contemporary sports control as legal teams try to figure out whether Sanders could truly walk away under allegations of organizational disintegration. Losing a player isn't the only thing causing havoc for the Browns. It's about losing authority. The outside forces around Sanders have shown how brittle NFL governance really is when athlete autonomy and corporate power clash. If ownership still controls the rules or if players have finally gained the power to control their own fate will depend on the outcome. The Cleveland Browns are in the midst of an unprecedented crisis. And it's not because of a losing run or a blown draft pick. It's existential this time. Shedeur Sanders, their quarterback, is being enticed away by something far more disruptive, a $100 million deal to leave the NFL entirely, rather than buy another team. Furthermore, this is not your typical discussion about money. It has nothing to do with a larger signing bonus or greater guarantee money. This is a fully weaponized business plan from outside parties who see Sanders to be more than just a football player. They saw him as a walking portfolio of influence, a global face, and a media brand. Equity is what this is. It's branding. These are performance bonuses linked to ownership holdings in various industries and social media analytics. Additionally, this offer has been expertly crafted to circumvent the NFL's stringent contractual requirements. The Browns are completely terrified. Coach Kevin Stefanski, General Manager Andrew Berry, and owner Jimmy Haslam are allegedly deeply involved in private high-security meetings. There are rumors of leadership communication breakdowns, internal lockdowns, and a fast-declining team culture. Morale is plummeting. Tension is high and everyone in the locker room is aware of the headlines. The fan base is growing outside. Protests are being organized by season ticket holders. Boycotts are being threatened by some. Because the franchise's face might not simply be departing, everyone feels betrayed. He may be choosing not to participate in the system at all. Sanders isn't only considering the proposal. He is at the epicenter of a new paradigm change in professional athletics. This is the evolution of athlete monetization. For the first time, a young NFL quarterback has been targeted with a business framework that views him as a Fortune 500 company rather than a player on a depth chart. All of this is not coincidental in the slightest. Cleveland has been in disarray for months, public coaching spats, power struggles inside the front office, and a long-standing reputation for mismanaging quarterback potential. The Browns are broken, not simply weak. And outside actors recognized the chance and moved quickly to take advantage of it. They offered Sanders freedom in addition to money. They offered him an empire as well as power. This is the reason this moment is so seismic. The ramifications extend well beyond Cleveland. Every development is being analyzed by national outlets. Rookie contract control has been a cornerstone of NFL governance. And the NFL league office is keeping a close eye on this not just because of the possible loss of a prominent player, but also because it jeopardizes the league's basic structure. Every locker room in the league may be affected if Sanders finds a way to legally terminate his contract based on allegations of hostile work environments or organizational misbehavior. That's not some legal fiction, either. Legal professionals are already debating how Sanders might contest his contract in light of organizational ethical guidelines and labor regulations. The NFL would experience its first significant fracture in the wall if he is successful. It is designed to manage young potential. Cleveland's leadership is working feverishly to develop a counteroffer in the meanwhile. According to reports, the organization is exploring a plan that involves early contract modification, large financial assurances, and surprisingly, giving Sanders real control over the team's operations and branding. That's correct. They are attempting to transform him from an inexperienced quarterback into a fictitious executive. Because they are now aware that a simple rise will not be sufficient. This is the catch, though. They might not be able to keep him even if they satisfy every requirement. Because Sanders is receiving more than just financial compensation from outside sources. It's independence. He would no longer have to deal with the poisonous atmosphere that has afflicted Cleveland for many years. Free from a chaotic front office. Liberated from a system that demands athletes to be successful despite dysfunctional organizations. It's also difficult to decline that. There is more to it than just financial gain. All of this has an emotional and psychological component. Sanders is experiencing internal struggle. The desire to establish himself as an NFL-caliber quarterback is one aspect. On the other hand, it's obvious that long-term prosperity, health, and pleasure might be better served outside the confines of a failing franchise. He's not the only one making this choice. Deion Sanders, his father, is heavily involved on a strategic and emotional level. And Deion is the one who knows the dangers of remaining in a poisonous organization because of tradition or loyalty. He has always placed a strong emphasis on self-preservation, value, and dignity. Because the NFL has had a one-sided power structure for decades, this is where the traditionalists go crazy. Players follow the rules, get drafted, and pray their organization doesn't wreck them. But now Sanders is questioning that disparity. Before his rookie contract even expires, he is demonstrating that the player can be the brand, the company, and the boss. Additionally, some franchises are afraid of the technique, while others may discreetly admire it. Because the NFL's contract model will never be the same if Shedeur Sanders is able to leave the league and establish a strong brand outside of it. Players who are drafted will have outside influence when they join the league. Agents will do more effort to achieve control and equity. And every dysfunctional team, including Cleveland, is just one disgruntled quarterback away from collapsing completely. The Browns' worry isn't exaggerated because of this. It is entirely justified. The story has already been lost. The locker room could be taken away from them. Additionally, they lose more than just a player if they lose Sanders. The one thing that was providing them with a future is lost. He represented a new beginning, a clean slate, and an opportunity to rebuild a team mired in its own previous transgressions. They start over from the beginning if he departs. Nothing but more of the same. No quarterback, no credibility, no hope. Instability, backlash, and a national image as the squad where careers go to die. Fans are upset because of this. The writing on the wall is visible to them. They are aware of the dysfunction. They have experienced it. And now, as a result of the organization's inability to organize itself, they are witnessing the one person who could have made all the difference fall between the cracks. Other teams are circling in the meantime. Some want to entice Sanders directly. Others are preparing for the impending cultural and legal shockwaves. It's a balancing act for the players' union. Do they uphold the integrity of the league's collective bargaining framework, or do they favor Sanders' autonomy? This whole thing has shown how precarious that balance is. Furthermore, this $100 million offer is more than just a glamorous diversion, so things will only get more problematic. The NFL's stranglehold on player development and remuneration is being strategically attacked. It's the first step in a bigger trend toward athlete-driven marketplaces and player-owned careers. Sanders is only the start. The first team to be weak enough to allow that to happen was Cleveland. It's more than just a contract drama. It's a failure of the system. A real-time slow-motion implosion having ramifications for all levels of the sport. Everyone is watching, from locker rooms to legal offices, because this could be the point at which the NFL loses control over its future. And only one guy has the power to make the decision. Shedeur Sanders is facing a once-in-a-generation chance to completely change the system. He's already demonstrated something, whether he accepts it or not. Now, players are in control. Actual power. And they've had enough of acting otherwise. We must wait now. Will the Browns be able to salvage their final hope? Or will they end up being the team that mishandled the most significant player of the contemporary era? Leave a comment with your ideas. Should Sanders leave the league or persevere through the turmoil? And remember to subscribe because this story is changing the rules regardless of what comes next. And we have only just begun. It doesn't matter whether the Browns lose Shedeur Sanders at this time. It concerns the severity of the fallout when it occurs. Because the damage has already been done, even if Cleveland manages to put together the ideal cash package and creates a Frankenstein-style contract, partnership, and franchise shareholding arrangement. You can't suddenly give someone executive authority without acknowledging how flawed your current leadership system is. Unless you've really lost control of a story, you don't give your quarterback the last word on branding, media, and locker room dynamics. And they've completely gone crazy in Cleveland. Instead of taking the lead, they are reacting, fumbling, and not planning. Sanders is seeing it all play out with every advantage in his favor, surrounded by advisors who are knowledgeable about both the media machine and the business world. This $100 million offer wasn't made overnight. It was actually created by a coalition of media, branding, and tech executives who recognized a power gap and knew just how to take advantage of it. These aren't agents for sports. These are worldwide marketers, investors, and entrepreneurs who recognize that an athlete's personality, particularly that of Sanders, can be profitable in ways that the NFL just cannot match. The problem is that this isn't a sideshow. This isn't a publicity gimmick. The league is being confronted by the future. Bonuses for performance based on social media data. A portion of his own digital content business and equity in several industries. The current athlete deal looks like this. In order for the NFL and its owners to profit off player popularity, the league has spent decades developing a business plan. However, the players are now learning how to take responsibility for their revenue, audience, and image. And at its core is Shedeur Sanders. He won't merely be taking a risky personal step if he takes the offer and leaves. He will set an example for all future NFL rookies. He will serve as an example of how players might choose not to participate in the conventional system and yet succeed, if not more so. And that's a scary idea for the league. Because the power dynamic permanently changes once players begin to see the NFL as optional. Let's not act as though this is just a financial issue. The most basic layer is that one. Control, self-determination, and the ability to say no to a dysfunctional organization and yes to creating something on your own terms are the fundamental issues. And that dysfunction is firmly ingrained in Cleveland. The squad has had unsuccessful cultural resets, coaching changes, leadership turnover, and quarterbacks like cheap batteries. Decades of instability have been disguised as yearly optimism. They now blow it when they finally find someone who has the ability, presence, and marketability to alter their course in life. They are unable to keep him safe. They are unable to help him. And now they could lose him completely. There are reports of tension, division, and uncertainty in the locker room. Some players are backing Sanders openly. Others are privately irritated by the team's submission to one player's dominance while ignoring years of disregard for the leadership and roster as a whole. They are trapped. They run the danger of alienating everyone else if they totally support Sanders. They run the risk of losing him and starting a far bigger collapse if they don't. And it's no longer just about Cleveland. You can guarantee front offices in every other NFL city are having emergency sessions. Because the precedent that is set is crucial if Sanders manages to legally terminate his rookie contract through allegations such as a hostile work environment or a breach of good faith. This is not what the CBA was designed for. Contracts for rookies were meant to be unbreakable. However, legal experts now claim that the method has flaws. Sanders might pass through the cracks. The NFL loses more than a player if Shedeur walks, thus the league office is silently freaking out. It no longer has the exclusive right to cultivate talent. It no longer gives the impression that the draft system is perfect. Even worse, it demonstrates that, in terms of player power, the NFL is no longer the biggest game in town. Because this is the harsh reality. Sanders is more important to the NFL than the NFL is to him. He is not a quarterback who depends on the system. He is not a player whose value is determined by his stats. His worth extends beyond the field and is cultural, global, and marketable. He is sought after by brands. Platforms are interested in him. He is wanted by industries that don't even watch football. The quarterback that the Cleveland Browns selected in the draft turned out to be a major media asset. And now that asset is being drawn toward a more sensible business model than the NFL's current one. Despite everything, the Browns continue to hold on to optimism. They are attempting to persuade everyone, including themselves, that they can resolve this. That Sanders will remain if there is sufficient funding, assurances, and reorganization. However, it goes beyond simply remaining. It has to do with what has been revealed. It's hardly a victory if you have to give your quarterback some operational autonomy and branding impact in order to prevent him from leaving. It's a warning sign for the organization. Furthermore, The effects are irreversible even if Sanders decides to stay. The Browns have acknowledged that they lack the leadership capacity to retain their best player. Everyone else in the changing room is aware of it. Other celebrities will begin to inquire. Why don't they have more control, protection, and adaptability? The structure crumbles the moment players cease believing it. The fan base is already divided. Some are calling on Cleveland to go to all lengths, no matter what, to retain Sanders. Others are incensed that the organization allowed things to become so bad. When a single player surpasses the size of the entire team, what happens to the team's identity? Even worse, what if that player departs? Total organizational exposure looks like this. The outside world is adoring it as well. Every episode has media analysts dissecting the deal. Athlete branding is being discussed by investors as if it were a hedge fund. The NBA is observing. College athletes are observing. Since this is more than just a football story, no collectives are paying attention. It serves as a blueprint for sports in the future. Sadly, Cleveland is the first team to be caught in the crossfire. And what comes next? Sanders is the only one who can decide that. He is balancing longevity with legacy. Reward against risk. The chance to create something on his own terms, where he is not just the talent but also the brand, the company, and the boss, versus the drudgery of establishing himself in a league that can't get its act together. What is the NFL's genuine response to that? What do they have to offer him to justify staying? Is it a franchise that prioritizes long-term planning and player development, a superior team culture, or a surefire route to a championship? Because what's left if it's not those things? And let's be honest, it's not. A rookie-scale contract with a crisis-ridden business where he must manage internal turmoil at every turn while bearing the burden of an entire city. Or $100 million, complete independence, global presence, and sustained ownership. Even loyalty has its limits. This is the evolution of an athlete. Sanders is not fleeing the NFL. He's into the next iteration of it. A version in which teams that can't get their act together are left behind and the league is not allowed to establish value. He becomes legendary if he departs. Not only for his actions on the field, but also for his refusal to acknowledge his actions off it. The Browns are on a timer if he stays because one more mistake, one more breakdown, and the clock runs out permanently. In any case, the game has evolved. This is the kind of narrative that shatters the foundation rather than just upending the league. For the Cleveland Browns, the Shedeur Sanders controversy is more than simply a public relations nightmare. It provides insight into how vulnerable the NFL's power system is in the face of contemporary athlete autonomy. You can tell how much the landscape has changed and how unprepared the league is to handle it by the fact that a player may even consider an outside offer of $100 million, which essentially allows him to leave the league. Additionally, Cleveland is at the heart of the storm, appearing increasingly helpless every day. You got a front office in panic mode, coaching leadership with no real power, and a locker room walking on eggshells. Desperation is evident in every aspect of the team's response. This is only a desperate attempt to put out an already uncontrollable fire. There is no method. Ideas for contract rearrangement, emergency meetings, and discussions on giving Sanders operational influence. It's not stable. That's giving up. A successful franchise doesn't look like this. This is the real-time appearance of collapse. Shedeur hasn't made any demands, which makes this even more vicious. This offer was not requested by him. It reached him. The worst thing for Cleveland is that outside forces saw Cleveland's instability and the NFL's control mentality and concluded, we can do better. We can build this guy a platform that respects his value and gives him power the league never will. Regardless of how you look at it, the Browns are attempting to hold on to Sanders by making promises that they ought to have kept from the start. Stability, security, and a long-term strategy. They're not luxuries. These are the fundamentals. When you genuinely value a player, you create a framework around them. However, the Browns were too preoccupied with resolving internal strife and fixing malfunctioning systems to recognize that their most valuable asset was becoming into the most desirable target in the contemporary sports industry. With executive benefits and unheard-of power, they are now pleading with him to stay. Why, though, would he believe that? Why would somebody do that? Cleveland owes Sanders nothing. He has complied with all of their requests. He entered a volatile franchise, bore the burden of enormous expectations, and kept his head down while the company struggled in the background. It won't be betrayal if he leaves now, it will just be survival. And in reality, this is a tale of survival. Not only for Sanders, but for the idea of player agency in professional sports as a whole. Because what happens if he stays? Yes, it's possible that Cleveland will throw everything at him. The base is still flawed, even if they create some sort of Frankenstein contract meets boardroom partnership. The culture remains dysfunctional. There is still tension in the locker room. Furthermore, the league's response to the whole situation has been one of silent panic, caution, anxiety, and a total inability to deal with the long-term implications. Because the NFL's monopoly on youthful talent will come to an end if Shedeur accepts the offer and demonstrates that he can succeed outside of its influence. Do you believe that 0 deals make a difference? That was only the prelude. The major event is this. Before his rookie contract even expires, this elite quarterback in the NFL's strictest contract system is being given freedom, money, ownership, and international exposure. That goes beyond power. The league has never seen leverage like that. And it's not going to stop with Shedeur. This is going to spread. Other athletes are already paying attention, particularly those from media-savvy families or those with sizable online followings. They have the playbook in front of them. Develop the brand. Take control of the platform. Instead of using the NFL as a home base, use it as a launchpad. Walk if the league is unable to keep up. It just so happened that Cleveland was the first to allow it to occur in daylight. And losing Shedeur will leave them with more than just another botched quarterbacking endeavor. It serves as a guide for what not to do when the game begins to change and you choose not to adapt as well. A generational opportunity was presented to them. They made a mistake and are now attempting to apply duct tape to an issue that requires a complete reconstruction. Now, Sanders is the center of attention. He is in charge. He establishes the mood. Whether he stays or leaves, Cleveland, the NFL, and the future of player empowerment will never be the same. So where do you stand? Should he stay and run the risk of being dragged down by a company that has demonstrated its inability to protect its own players? Or should he leave and alter the game? Please share your thoughts in the comments section and remember to subscribe. Whatever Shedeur Sanders chooses to do next is history, and we'll be here for every moment of it.